Thank you, Justin, and what better way to spend your birthday with 400 of your closest friends. I didn't envisage actually doing, I won't say what year it is. It's not an important one, that's for another year, but delighted to be here and welcome everyone to the SMMT's 2024 International Summit, and it is international. We welcome, like we do in the market, people from everywhere, from France, from Germany, from Italy, Spain, America, Korea, Japan, even Slovenia, who have got a warm welcome right up until 8 o'clock tonight. Delighted that so many of you could come. It is actually a sellout. I'd like to say it sold out as rapidly as Taylor Swift. Didn't quite manage sort of 37 seconds. And equally, there's no politicians who want to take a selfie with me. Apart from that, it's just the same as her sort of gig. But we are, of course, just over a week from a general election. However, SMMT must, like so many of you, remain impartial and show no favoritism, because we will work with a government of any stripe, always have, always will. But I must say this. One of the two parties say they represent change. The other says that they have a plan. Now, this shouldn't be an either-or. We need both. Now, both say they will provide stability, and we could do with that as well. With the current geopolitical uncertainty, the global technology race, stability at home is absolutely non-negotiable. But what everyone agrees is that the UK desperately needs growth. And our response is simple. If you want growth, then we can deliver it. So work with us, provide the right landscape, and we will deliver the growth the nation seeks. £50 billion worth of growth over the next decade. We will build 500,000 more vehicles and export them to the world. We will sell 750,000 more cars, and all of them will be zero emission, potentially. How will we do this? Well, like so many others, we've got a manifesto. But unlike the others, we launched ours ages ago. In fact, at this very event last year. Maybe we saw an election coming. And yes, that is why I will be down at the bookies straight after this. So today, with just over a week before the general election, we relaunched that manifesto as a final entreaty to all parties. Whoever wins, embrace these policies and we will deliver the growth the nation needs. Only one thing has changed since last year. Originally, our manifesto set out a plan called Vision 2030. So now we are targeting Vision 2035. Some of us will have us change the name back. But where there is confusion, let us bring consensus. So we'll agree to call it Ready to Grow. We ask for 5 things. You can call them missions, pledges, whatever. The titles don't actually matter. What matters is that these are 5 essentials that will deliver growth and net zero. So first, we need zero emission mobility for all. This is not a moral choice, where good people go for net zero and lazy people do not. This is a place where we all need to be and where we all have the opportunity to be. It cannot be a place that only some of us can afford. Now, we've seen tremendous growth in the uptake of EVs over the last decade, showing our natural instinct for innovation, for technology, for what's exciting. But as with any technology, there comes a plateau. And electric vehicle demand is currently stranded on that plateau at the moment. So we need to push on to get demand moving, and that means incentives to help people. Financial incentives to buy EVs, VAT cuts on public charging, measures to ensure a just, fair, and fast transition. Some people have range anxiety. Now, this may be misplaced because most EVs have a range that's actually twice that of the average weekly commute. But perception is reality, and if people are anxious, it's up to us to assuage those concerns. That is why we're working as if our lives depend upon it, to improve, to extend, to reassure. But we too need reassurance from public authorities, reassurance that they're providing charging points as if their lives depend on it. From insurers, reassurance that they're doing all they can to drive down premiums. And from energy companies, reassurance that they will make energy greener, cheaper, and connected to all those who want to invest. because meeting our shared ambitions depends on all of us. Our second essential, if you will, champion made in Britain, sold to the world. We need free and fair trade and governments that can deliver it. In the last year, the UK automotive sector has attracted a remarkable amount of inward investment, more than £20 billion committed to zero-emission vehicle battery production and vehicle production. Government and Britain has the opportunity to move forward. But other countries have done likewise. The United States set aside trillions. The EU, China, and others are investing billions upon billions. The competition is fierce. But it is also global, and globally, protectionism is on the rise. The US recently announced 100% tariffs on Chinese-produced EVs. Earlier this month, the EU announced substantial tariffs on the same vehicles. We will carefully monitor the effect of these measures and must be ready to act if competition is unfair, because we buy vehicles from across the world and we export across the world too, and expect the same degree of openness and fairness. We are, of course, now an independent trading nation, and we need UK trade agreements, but agreements that enshrine that fairness. The picture is mixed. Trade deals with Japan, Australia, and New Zealand were welcome. South Korea is looking promising, and we hope to formally join the CPTPP later this year. But negotiations can be tricky. Our trade negotiations with Canada are suspended, not because of concerns about our products, but concerns about, would you believe it, cheese. Talks with India are paused, and we face another cliff edge on EU EV trade in 2027. So we need both sides to press ahead with balanced deals that enhance the industry on both sides of the table. There is a real prize here. More than half of all British car and van production will be zero emission by 2028. These are vehicles that are globally attractive, often complementary to those produced locally in these overseas markets. Better trade conditions would enable greater output, revenues, and growth. Third, we need to provide green skills for a greener future. Now, as you know, around 200,000 people are directly employed in automotive manufacturing in the UK, a workforce which must be reskilled to electrification at pace. And in the aftermarket, by 2030, we will need at least 100,000 qualified professionals as more of those EVs come online. That requires the development of domestic talent while also being attractive to global expertise. And the collaboration between universities and industry is one of our greatest advantages, and we must build on that. But we must also do things like reforming the apprenticeship levy to support the upskilling of our existing workforce. We must elevate STEM subjects in our schools and encourage lifelong learning. And we must ensure that we attract the very best from every background, gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, ability, and disability. That is just common sense. Fourth, there is no point in mandating green vehicles if they are charged with brown energy. Currently, around half the UK's electricity production is carbon zero. We need to improve on that. Our industry is investing heavily to manufacture vehicles that produce no carbon on the road. It would be perverse for them to be charged with electricity generated from carbon sources. So making low-cost, low-carbon energy readily available would obviously accelerate our net zero transition. And it would also cut EV life cycle emissions from production to recharging, reducing business costs and stimulating investment. And fifth and finally, we need to wrap all of these aspects into one plan, one industrial strategy, a strategy that draws together all the threads, that brings together all parties and brings together all of government. It must be long-term, it must be backed with resource, and it must back automotive. We as an industry know what we need to do. We started doing it before we were told to. The idea that we were dragged kicking and screaming is for those that don't understand our business. Whenever asked, the UK automotive industry has responded. Indeed, we've often anticipated grasping the future before policymakers regulated it. But what we do not need is any more moving goalposts. Set the goal and we will meet it. We always have. but let it be set and achieved in partnership. So whatever the result of the election next week, I would actually love a coalition, but a coalition between the new government and the UK automotive industry, a jewel in our economic crown. Working together, delivering growth, change with a plan. Thank you very much.